Winter is not leaving without saying goodbye. Now it's early in the morning as far as I'm concerned, 8:30. Now usually I take the night shift and watch Baby Gabe, and that was no exception last night into this morning. So I don't know if I'm sleepwalking or what I'm doing, but what I'm doing is I'm taking these 2 feet and these hairy legs, and I'm going to walk to where all good adventures begin and end. And that would be the fast food restaurant Hardees. My first job ever was at Hardees, and I worked there as a crew leader with my good friend Brad, and there's no such thing as a coincidence, only miracles. I'm going to meet Brad at Hardees early this morning. Brad's going to be bringing along his son and his big brother. Now, earlier this year, when my buddy Baby Gabe was born, I had a list of men that I wanted to send letters to, cards to, papers to, and also, instead of the cigars, which is the traditional gift of a proud papa, I gave the gift of Shamrock Shakes. Now there's one guy that got crossed off my list, and that was Brad's big brother Kevin. I realized that I had to put my sweetheart's brother, Uncle Tim, on that list. You know, he's kind of out of sight, out of mind. I've only seen Tim a handful of times in my life. I think about him a lot, and I want to get to know him better. So I kind of had to move Kevin off of the list, and I guess he was the first alternate. I know that's a terrible thing to say. I haven't had a lot of experience and interaction with Kevin over the years. He went to Texas. There's no coincidence in the fact that I've been watching Friday Night Lights continuously with Baby Gabe as we sit up, you know, to 5, 6, 7 in the morning until my sweetheart wakes up. But I'm really, really excited about having this interaction with Kevin today. It is snowing some more. I don't believe this. The thing is, usually Kevin comes up around Christmas time to spend some time with the family, and one of the biggest traditions that's always been in my buddy Brad and Kevin's family is game day. Now Kevin, I don't know exactly what he does for a living. He works at a big computer corporation, I think, or he did. He's really good at what he does. He's a really bright, incredibly talented and charismatic guy. But he decided somewhere along the line that he wanted to make games for people to play. And wow, I really admire that. Today, we're going to go to Green Bay, Wisconsin. They have a saying in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and it goes, Texas forever. No, you don't say Texas forever in Green Bay. If you say that, about 8 million Packer fans will put your head on a stick and take it to Lambeau Field to serve as a warning for all the other people that diss the Packers in Packer country. But we're going to go to a convention. Hopefully I'll have a little bit of time left on this camera when I get there to, you know, do a little filming, because as far as I can tell, Kevin has new games that he's unveiling, games that he has developed, games that he has created with his imagination, and chances are good that I'm going to get to play these games. And I'm really excited about that. I would say that Kevin is probably responsible for me having such a love of board games as I do. I mean, there are board games that everybody has in their house. Scrabble, Monopoly, Candyland, Parcheesi, checkers, chess, you know, all those games are very common. But there are just thousands and thousands and thousands of board games. Like, I don't know exactly how many board games there are, but I'm guessing there has to be probably at least, I don't want to say 75,000 different board games out there. And that's probably a very, very low estimate. And this guy, well, Kevin, whenever he came up to visit the family, he always brought these wonderful, mystical, magical board games. A lot of times they were from Germany or overseas or Belgium. A lot of times they didn't even have English directions, but they were always fun. And I really like the idea of sitting down with the family and playing board games together. I know today that's such a kind of a silly notion. I mean, you got Angry Birds, you got the iPad Touch. I mean, you got games that you can download on your electronic device for $1, $5, $10. You don't gotta drive to a store. You know, you don't have to read any rules. You just sit down, you know, and stick your face into an electronic device and you are entertained. Now, I think that playing board games takes quite a bit of time. You gotta sit down, you gotta read the rules, you gotta figure out what's going on, you know, and usually the first couple of times you play a board game you don't get it quite right. Then you gotta play it again after you got all the, you know, all the snafus ironed out. It's kind of a slow process. It's kind of old-fashioned. It's kind of like writing. You know, I got letters that I gotta write this week. It's kind of the same concept, you know. If I write a letter on my computer, I got the cut and paste, the backspace, the delete, the, you know, the save. If you write a letter by hand on paper, it takes a lot more time. If you make a mistake, you might have to start over. I don't know, there's just something old-fashioned and special about playing board games. Now, Kevin, I believe, according to my buddy Brad, I'm not going to go into the details, but he's become very successful at making these board games. You know, he has turned it from a hobby, pastime, up where, you know, he has a warehouse and, you know, people work for him and that sort of thing. And that, I think, is incredibly amazing. Now, the big thing that I gotta point out is that Kevin is a lot older than Brad. Like, I'm only 4 years older than my brother, but I am 19 years older than my little sister. And Brad and Kevin are kind of in that age range where Brad is a lot younger than Kevin. Brad's brother Kevin taught me how to swim. He was my swimming instructor teacher back in Amarillo. Now, I love to swim. When I first started out swimming, I sucked. I really did. I was not a good swimmer. It did not come natural. I don't know if I flunked a couple classes or got held back, but I know that my stepma had no comfort zone with me going into the deep end. She did not want that to happen. But I stuck it out, and eventually I became a pretty good darn swimmer. In fact, I became a certified swimming instructor myself. Took after the footsteps of one of my young heroes, because Kevin was indeed like the coolest guy in the world back when I was a young man, or a young kid, I should say. Now, Today is a day all about Kevin's games, but I have 2 games of my own in this duffel bag here, in this man satchel. Bravo, he's got nothing to contribute. He's just hanging out in the fanny pack. Now, I'm not going to bust out those games today. Today is a day about Kevin and his games. I don't want to rain on his parade or take away his thunder, but it comes to me that I think that Kevin, if he can teach me how to swim, he can probably teach me a thing or two about getting one of my games in my hands so I could give it to others, so I can make people sit around a table together and spend time together and laugh and have fun. Now that sounds like a worthwhile investment of my time, and I'm hoping that Kevin thinks it is too, because I'm never short on ideas, and I have probably at least 5 or 6 good board game ideas rattling around in my head. I don't know which one to go with first, and I'm sure that Kevin will be able to shed some light on that. Alright, there in the distance is Hardees. I got about probably 4 or 5 more minutes of walking to do. I'm going to turn this thing off and save a little bit of film, hopefully at the convention, and I can get some shots of Kevin doing what he does best, and maybe a little glimpse at the future. Because if I could sit at home and make a board game and play with my children and put ramen noodles in the pot, that sounds like living the dream. Texas forever.